Welcome to the 21st Annual Vermont Employee Ownership Conference. My name is John Durgan. I'm the board president, and I'm also an employee owner at King Arthur Baking in Norwich, Vermont. Have been for a little over 14 years. We at the VEOC believe that when companies are employee-owned, everyone prospers. The Vermont Employee Ownership Center is a statewide nonprofit whose mission is to promote and foster employee ownership in order to broaden capital ownership, deepen employee participation, retain jobs, increase living standards of working families, and stabilize communities. The VEOC provides resources to owners interested in selling their businesses to employees, employee groups interested in purchasing a business, and entrepreneurs who wish to start up a company with broadly shared ownership. As a nonprofit, we depend significantly on support from people and companies who believe in our mission. We want to thank our generous sponsors for providing support, enabling us to bring you the conference, allowing us to share with you information that serves your needs and perhaps opens new doors. I want to thank our board members who volunteer their time throughout the year to bring you their expertise, enthusiasm, and commitment for broadly shared ownership. I have to tell you, we spend a lot of time, we have a lot of meetings, and they're about 3 hours a pop. And with the board of directors that we have, we couldn't do this. And I really want to thank them and give them a round of applause. I think most of them are in here. Most importantly, the board would like to recognize our staff, because without them, we could not continue our mission and put this conference forward. Matt and his staff, I think some of them are out there still checking people in. And Matt Kropp, right here, Matt Kropp's our executive director. I'll introduce you to him right now, but I'd like to give him a round of applause too. I'm going to turn this over to Matt, and thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, John, and welcome everyone to our 21st annual conference. We've been at this for many years, and this year is our most successful one in terms of attendance to date, which was very exciting. Normally we're hounding people to the very last minute, and this time we actually sold out, which feels pretty good. I wanted to just share a little bit about the kind of what's been going on in the employee ownership world in Vermont in the past year, and kind of what we're looking at in the future. So, this is a employee ownership, and as we can see with this room, interest in it continues to grow. We're working with more companies who are seriously exploring it simultaneously than we have at any time in the 8 years that I've worked for the organization, and the number of folks that are continuing to sort of reach out and have conversations continues to grow. So we see a very, very positive outlook for employee ownership. We also were very lucky to have a new staffer come on this year, Annie Winkler, who some of you might have met checking folks in. Annie spent a decade working for an employee-owned pickle factory. Is very system-oriented, very sort of sharp, and has experience going through a conversion about a decade ago. So has really been able to hit the ground running and added capacity to us to being able to do the work. So looking to the future, probably one of the biggest things for us right now is after many years of it being proposed by Senator Sanders, the Work Act was passed, which provides support to employee ownership centers around the country. So we're going to see more employee ownership centers, and that also gives us more capacity, hopefully starting in 2024. What we're going to do with that capacity is something that is very much up in the air. Our board retreat will be discussing that, and we'll be reaching out to the employee ownership community to really sort of give us some input on what are the things that would be most helpful to have us doing if we can do more. So that is something that's pretty exciting for us. So this conference brings together a lot of different people from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different walks of life. And that's one of the things that makes it so much fun for me. So I just encourage everyone, before you leave today, try to at least have a conversation with one person who you've never met before, right? There's folks who are exploring employee ownership. There's folks who have been doing it for 20 years. There's folks who, specialize in certain things that you might not even know have existed. And there's so much to learn here, even beyond the great sessions and speakers who are contributing their time to make this a really educational day. So finally, with Annie's departure, that came kind of in tandem with the retirement of Don Jameson, who was our executive director from our founding and had been doing employee ownership work even before our organization existed. He kind of ramped down gradually. He was working 8 hours a week at the end, and I think felt happy and ready to retire, as his wife Christina also retired this year, and they're expecting their first grandchild. So big life transition for Don. So I'd like to invite Don up to say a few words of reflection, and then so Don Jameson, everyone.
Well, it's the 21st conference, and I can't believe I don't have anything to do with it. All these people in the room just came here. No, I guess you guys were working on it, weren't you? Yeah, I picked a good time to leave because we have a super strong staff right now. There's never been more interest in employee ownership, and there's going to be money. So hooray! I feel like I got us through some lean times. I'll say that much at least. So thanks to Matt and to Ryan and Annie for taking up the flag and carrying it onward. And thanks to all of you for doing the employee ownership work. You're actually the ones who are in the companies who are living employee ownership every day. And also those of you who are thinking about employee ownership. It's great. It's a great thing from every possible point of view. So I guess my parting words from the podium, here it is, like I've been at the podium, like this is my 21st time, I can't believe it. What am I going to do without this annual ritual? My parting words are, employee ownership is about people. And really, ultimately, the economy should be about people. It's about taking care of each other. And there's so many trends right now that are anti-people, so let's hope that employee ownership spreads and grows, and let's hope that we can keep human beings at the center of the economy instead of getting sidelined by who knows what. On that somber note, I will leave you. Have a great day, learn a lot, and keep doing it.
So for decades, Senator Sanders has provided support for employee ownership going back to when he was the mayor of Burlington. We found a video of a forum that they put together in 1985, and he was also instrumental in providing some of the early funding to our organization. So I'd like to invite up a representative of Senator Sanders to Will Stevens to deliver a letter to Don and a message from the senator.
Thanks, Matt, and John and Don and everyone here. My name is Will Stevens. I'm an outreach representative for Senator Sanders. I cover small business, economic development, and other issues for the senator. And in that role, I get to be his eyes and ears for what's going on in the state. Before we go to Don, with all due respect, I do have a few remarks I'd like to offer on behalf of the senator. Last year, VEOC received $158,000 in congressionally directed spending or earmark funds to help them with their work, and you've done a great job so far, and congratulations and thank you very much. Senator Sanders recognizes the value that employee ownership brings to businesses. John mentioned a number of them: a more democratic workplace, a heightened awareness of each person's role in their company's success, a sense of workplace as community, a work environment that helps attract new employees, high retention rates, and many, many good-paying jobs in Vermont and across the U.S. Especially true at this point in time, with a growing number of business owners looking to retire, employee ownership is a model some can use to ensure a viable path and responsible succession path for them, their employees, and their businesses. Study after study has shown that employee ownership creates higher wages, better benefits, and a more secure retirement. It also increases employment, sales, and savings, and decreases gender and racial wealth disparities. And VEOC is at the heart of that work in Vermont. Having just told you what you probably already know, I'd like to pivot and share a little bit of what Bernie's up to in DC. As the new chair of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, or the HELP Committee, Senator Sanders now plays a central role in writing the rules for ESOPs, which he's excited about. After more than a decade of hard work and persistence fighting for this program, Senator Sanders successfully passed the Work Act as part of the Secure 2.0 Act last year. The Work Act creates the Employee Ownership Initiative at the Department of Labor and requires the department to issue critically needed regulations relating to the value of ESOPs. The senator and our team are working hard to ensure that the Employee Ownership Initiative is fully funded and placed in a DOL office that is supportive of the program. We're hopeful that once the funding is appropriated, groups like VEOC and those across the nation will receive grants for their fantastic work of educating workers and business owners. Republican Ranking Member Cassidy and his staff have a history of being supportive of ESOPs, so we believe that working to pass future legislation promoting employee ownership could prove to be an area where there's substantial bipartisan support and a chance to get more done in this congressional session. While we've passed the Work Act, an additional piece of legislation we've talked about as the next step is some new version of Senator Sanders' Employee Ownership Bank Act, which would create a bank to help finance ESOP sales. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the work of VEOC co-founder Don Jamerson, and I have a letter from the senator, which I'm happy to read and present to Don. Dear Don, congratulations on your well-deserved retirement after 22 years with the Vermont Employee Ownership Center. Your leadership as co-founder, executive director, and program director at the VEOC has had a significant impact on employee ownership efforts across the country, and because of that, our state has become a leader in these democratic and socially responsible business structures. You have much to be proud of. At a time when the wealth gap is at a record high and corporate consolidation has left workers across the country feeling expendable, we need businesses that focus on the well-being of their employees and their communities, and not just their bottom lines. Your efforts, along with your colleagues at the VEOC, have proven that employee ownership offers a solution by ensuring that employees have a meaningful seat at the table at which they can identify opportunities, guide success for their businesses, and generate wealth and prosperity. For that, I am very grateful. I am pleased to join with you, your family, friends, and colleagues in thanking you for your great work and wishing you the very best in the years ahead. Sincerely, Senator Bernie Sanders.
I'd next like to introduce Fauna Hurley, who will be delivering some remarks on behalf of Senator Welch.
Good morning. Just like to start by saying thank you to Matt and his amazing team at VEOC for organizing this event today. I am delighted to be here speaking on behalf of Senator Welch, and I serve as the Senator's business liaison. I've enjoyed meeting many of you in this role over the past several years and look forward to meeting more of you today. As I travel across the state and meet with businesses, more and more owners are making succession plans, which presents an opportunity to extend benefits of employee ownership to thousands more Vermonters and their communities. This conference is a crucial opportunity for businesses to learn about various paths and options that work best for their businesses and get questions answered by those who have walked those chosen paths. We know that Vermont's businesses are a tight-knit community, particularly after the pandemic forced all of us to work together, share information, and support one another as we all adapted to challenging environments. VEOC has been so successful at creating and nurturing mentor and mentee businesses in an effort to create more opportunities for employee ownership. I'm delighted to share with you that Senator Welch has signed on to a bill that came to our office at the request of Gardner Supply and the Employee Stock Ownership Plan Association. This bill would create a new program in the Small Business Administration's Small Business Investment Company that would provide loan guarantees to support employee ownership of small and mid-sized businesses. And while I mentioned Gardner Supply, I'd be remiss not to recognize Will Rapp, founder of one of the most successful employee-owned businesses in Vermont and in the country. Will's life is a testament to his powerful and enduring impact on Vermont. In closing, Senator Welch extends his well wishes as you gather here today, build new relationships, and make important decisions about the future of your companies and the future of employees. Your hard work will create significant, sustainable opportunities for more Vermonters. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our keynoter for today, Derek Peebles. Derek and I first encountered each other when he was on a panel at the Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility Conference, and he talking about building sustainable local economies, and he sort of really articulated a vision for how employee ownership fits into that mix. So we'd like to start the day often with thinking a little bit big around what is the impact, what is it that we're trying to do here in terms of building a vibrant community of employee owners. And so I'm very interested and happy to have Derek speak for us today. Derek is Senior Director of Inclusive Economy at the American Sustainable Business Network, referred to as the ASBN. With the recent merger of the American Sustainable Business Council and Social Venture Network, ASBN is a leading socially responsible business group partnering with businesses and investors to bring collective wisdom and public policy solutions to the systemic issues negatively impacting our society and planet. ASBN unites top entrepreneurs, investors, and the leaders of mission-driven companies in common cause while amplifying and extending the collective voice of the sustainable business community in previously impossible ways. As a multi-issue membership organization advocating for every business sector, size, and geography, ASBN and its association members collectively represent over 250,000 businesses across their networks. Please join me in welcoming Derek Peebles.
I'm just getting over a sinus infection, so I have some water here for me. Sorry. Good morning. How's everybody? Like the previous speakers, I'm delighted to be here to speak with you all today and want to thank the Vermont Employee Ownership Center for inviting me to come. And like was said, this is my second time here, and my first time here was last year speaking at the BBSR conference and led a panel with the CEO of Seventh Generation on the Peebles economy. And I have a strong connection to Vermont. My current boss is the former co-founder of Seventh Generation, Jeffrey Hollander. And so just glad to be here. And I recognize a lot of the work that you all do is very critical to our economy as we move forward. So before I start, I just want to get us grounded. We got a long day. There's a lot of people here, and you're going to be introduced to some people. You're going to have some conversations. And so I just wanted to get us grounded in a little breathing exercise real quick before we get started. And so what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you close your eyes, not yet, but I'm going to have you close your eyes, and then I'm going to have you take a deep breath in, and then I'm going to have you hold your breath for 3 seconds. And while you're holding your breath, I'm going to give you a word to breathe in for 3 seconds, and then I'm going to give you a word to breathe out. And then we'll do that twice, and then I'll get started. So everybody close their eyes. And just think about what you had to give up this morning in order to be here. It's very critical to think about what you gave up. And so as we're closing our eyes, I'm going to have you right now just take a deep breath, and we're going to breathe in abundance for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to breathe out scarcity. One more time, another word. Breathe in. This time we're going to breathe in possibilities. Let's hold for 3 seconds. And we're going to breathe out deficiencies. Good. Open your eyes, and I'm ready to talk. Thanks. So, the work you do is very crucial to the local economy, the businesses, and most importantly, the people who make those businesses thrive. I started my career as a small business banker at J.P. Morgan Chase. I was a universal banker. I started out as a financial advisor, and then I started out doing loans, mainly home equity loans so people can start their businesses. And then the 2009 economic crisis happened, and 90% of the loans that I had written in 2008 had all defaulted. And then we entered the housing boom. It was at that time where I had an epiphany. I'm Episcopalian, and I had an epiphany to where I thought that I would want to make an impact in community. And so I transitioned out of banking and got into economic development. And that's essentially the work that I do now as Senior Director of Inclusive Economy at ASBN. For more than 10 years now, I've been at the intersection of community development and economic development. And there's a distinction between the two. Community development is about building quality of life. Economic development is about creating jobs and wealth. The two fields often don't talk and often are not in relationship. I am a practitioner of asset-based community development, and we refer to this methodology as ABCD. And I would like to talk to you all today about a mindset that could be useful for considering an employee ownership conversion. And it could also be a tool to help drive success for existing employee-owned businesses, especially in this era of growing inequality. In this area where the rhetoric that we talk in our politics has really created an atmosphere that is kind of scary, not including all the AI stuff and everything that we're hearing about. So my work has been around building inclusive economies by focusing on people and focusing on the gifts and the assets that people bring to the table. So the inclusive economy portfolio that I run at ASBN, we designed it last year to recognize the importance of building an inclusive economy that serves the needs of both small and local businesses. And there's a difference between what we call local. A local business is a business that's not owned by a chain, that's not franchise owned. A local business is a business that keeps the dollar circulating in a community. When you go buy your cup of coffee at Starbucks, 47 cents of that dollar is going to Seattle. That's okay, I like Starbucks. But just understanding that we're now in an era after the pandemic where our businesses closed and we never seen ever more of a heightened awareness of the power of our dollar and the power of community and local business. So ASBN, we've had great success in supporting the growth and development of small businesses and entrepreneurs, especially those in underserved communities. Our programs provide technical assistance, access to capital, and opportunities for networking and collaboration. We recently merged with a social venture network that brings in all of the impact investors. Our programs, our working groups, and our task forces really provide members with the ongoing opportunity to shape and engage our policy work, our capital deployment, and our business advocacy. And so there's 3 primary working groups within our portfolio, my portfolio. One is transforming business ownership, and this group is really committed to helping businesses transition into employee-owned companies and worker cooperatives. The mission is that it will keep jobs and keep wealth within our communities. And this initiative, the work that you all are doing, also has the potential to diminish barriers for race. It enables individuals from all walks of life and offers them an opportunity to achieve an ownership legacy that they otherwise would not have. We also have our faith-based community investing group, which is a group that consists of endowment managers. When most people think of investing, they think of Wall Street, but as you hear the term impact investing, that actually started from a group of nuns. And so when you look at, I said earlier, I'm Episcopalian, and in Cincinnati, I sit on the board of Christ Church Cathedral, where we manage a $90 million endowment that we're looking to invest in local communities. Over the next 5 to 10 years, 60,000 churches across the nation are going to be closing, and that's going to leave a huge cash windfall for churches. It is important for them to be a part of this conversation too, regardless of your faith. We also have our Restorative Investing Task Force, which this group is really looking at building bridges between traditional philanthropy and market-driven impact investing practices to address equity issues. So that's our inclusive economy work at ASBN. Now to get into about the first, actually there's 3 methodologies that I'm going to talk about today that I think could be very useful as you explore employee ownership. Asset-based community development, we call ABCD. It's a methodology that seeks to recognize and leverage the strengths, the talents, and the resources within a community to drive sustainable development. ABCD promotes the empowerment of individuals and groups within a community to take the lead in shaping their own development. It's a model and a mindset that links the micro assets of a community to the macro environment by focusing on abundance instead of scarcity. So let's start with a simple yet profound question. What is the most valuable asset of any business? Is it the innovative products, the advanced machinery, or the significant financial capital? While all of these are significant, the most valuable asset, as you all know, of any business is undeniably its people. And it's upon this premise that both the concept of employee ownership and asset-based community development really reside. So employee ownership aligns with ABCD, asset-based community development, in several ways. I'm gonna have you write this down. I'm just kidding. One is leveraging existing assets. Now, when I talk about assets, I'm not talking about financial capital. Employee ownership recognizes that employees themselves are an asset. Their skills, their experience, their dedication, their local knowledge are valuable resources that can contribute to the success of a business. 2, building on strengths. Employee-owned businesses capitalize on the strengths of their employees, providing them with a stake in the business that motivates them to contribute their best efforts. This aligns with ABCD focus on identifying and building upon existing assets within a community. And when we're thinking about our employees, think about the community within our employees as well. 3, promoting local control and empowerment. Employee ownership gives employees a say in business decisions, aligning with the ABCD principle of promoting local control. This empowerment can lead to higher job satisfaction, greater commitment to the company, and a better business performance. 4, building community. I have 3 more. Just as ABCD aims to strengthen relationships within a community, employee ownership can build a sense of community within a business. Employees often have stronger relationships with each other and with their business when they feel a sense of ownership and shared purpose. Just to connect the dots on this, I played Little League Baseball when I was growing up, and I remember around the baseball ring, on the outer ring, there was a bunch of billboards on the fences, and they were all local businesses within our community. that supported our baseball team. We actually went to the Little League World Series. We didn't see Starbucks billboards posted around our field. It was the local businesses that actually invested in the youth of our community. Number 5, sustainability. ABCD aims to create sustainable solutions to community issues. Employee-owned businesses often demonstrate a long-term commitment to their local communities and economies. They are less likely to relocate and more likely to engage in sustainable business practices. Creating economic opportunities. Employee ownership can create economic opportunities, potentially increasing wages, retirement savings, and job security for employees. Also, a legacy for the owner who's looking to retire. This can also contribute to economic development within a community aligning with the goals of ABCD. Promoting innovation and creativity. This is the last one. ABCD believes in the creativity and problem-solving capacities inherent in every community. Similarly, employee ownership encourages innovation and creativity as employees have a vested interest in the company's success and are more likely to suggest new improvements or new ideas. So you can see that there's really a strong alignment between employee ownership and ABCD. Both focus on harnessing assets that exist already in the community and strengths, promoting local control and empowerment, and fostering sustainable development. Employee ownership represents more than just a unique business model. Employee ownership represents a philosophy. It embodies a philosophy that values the contributions of each individual, recognizing that their skills, that their dedication, and that their unique perspectives are at the heart of a company's success. Likewise, asset-based community development, or ABCD, cherishes the unique strengths and assets within a community, leveraging them to create a sustainable, vibrant, and a resilient local economy. Now, imagine combining these two powerful concepts. What happens when we link the empowerment of employee ownership with the sustainable development of ABCD? What happens is we create a synergistic force that is greater than the sum of all of its parts. Employee ownership enriches local economies, providing stability, spreading wealth more broadly, and fostering a greater sense of community engagement. When employees are owners, they are more motivated to innovate, enhance productivity, and drive business growth. They also become more committed to the welfare of their community, contributing their time, their talent, and resources to local initiatives. So for the associations like VEOC, like ASBN, like BBSR, these are associations that are very critical to the success of this movement to create more employee-owned businesses. And let me tell you why. There's a couple of slides that I would like to show you. So when I talk about ABCD, all I'm really saying is let's look at a glass half full versus looking at it half empty. People in communities have deficiencies and they have needs, but individuals and communities also have assets and capacities. So let's think about any nonprofit leaders in the room. When you're applying for a grant to support employee ownership, what's the first thing that you're asked in that grant? What are the needs of the community that you're serving? And my challenge to you all is not to always think about the needs. And you can see in the next slide, when we think about needs assessment and when we assess our communities, and this can also be used when we are assessing our workforce. And you can see by focusing on what's deficient, you can see behind me the map. Everything that you see on this map are deficiencies. And so my challenge and what I'm saying is we have to start collecting new data that shows new value that could be investable. So when you focus on A, B, C, D, and when you're focusing on the possibilities and the assets and the gifts versus focusing on problem solving, I'm not arguing against problem solving, but when you focus from a place of a mindset of possibilities, this is the kind of map that you get. You have your local institutions that are involved. You have your citizens associations that are involved. But you can see at the heart of any community and at any business is the gifts of individuals. And I'm gonna just leave this slide up here while I'm talking, but that's the last slide I'm gonna show. So as we look into the future, I see immense potential to harness the power of employee ownership as a catalyst for community development. In the face of economic uncertainty and increasing inequality, we need innovative, resilient, and inclusive strategies to drive sustainable growth in our communities, but also in our businesses. Unfortunately, we are living in an era where traditional economic practices and frameworks are being challenged. ABCD recognizes that our current economic system is limited in its ability to address the needs of society and the environment, and seeks to shift mindsets towards a more holistic understanding of value. Think about how we traditionally collect data. It's hard to determine what to value from this map. But when you're having conversations with your employees and in your communities about what's possible, you begin to start having different conversations. And ultimately, this whole methodology is really just a way of living. It's about a way of having conversations that move us more towards the future that we all want to see. So in thinking about the backlash against ESG and woke capitalism, I'm not going to say much about it. But what I will say, when I think about that backlash, it's important to recognize the limitations of conventional economic systems. These systems operate on a narrow definition of value. Think about what we value currently. It's all about profits. It's all about the bottom line. These systems operate on a narrow definition of value that does not account for the externalities, such as social impact or environmental sustainability. This means that these economic systems are unable to adequately address pressing societal issues such as poverty and inequality, climate change, or public health crisis. In reality, the current economic system exacerbates these issues. Think about it. That's why it's so important to focus on just shifting our mindset towards a more holistic understanding of value. This involves reevaluating what we consider valuable and recognizing new forms of defining and accessing private, social, and public capital. as viable resources for creating an economy that works for all. Here at the Vermont Employee Ownership Center, you are at the forefront of this endeavor. Your work to promote and support employee ownership is more than just an economic strategy. It's more than just a philosophy. It's a way of empowering individuals, strengthening businesses, and building vibrant, resilient communities. And when we're talking about mindsets and when we talk about language and the rhetoric, actually everything that I just said to you is actually a conservative viewpoint. So today, I challenge all of us to deepen the connection between employee ownership and the mindset of abundance. Let's get out of this mindset of deficiency and problem solving. We will solve our problems by focusing on the assets that people bring to the table, regardless of the differences in our politics or whatever, in our faith. It gets me kind of emotional when you think about it. So let's explore new ways to leverage our community assets, empower our local workforce, and foster sustainable growth through employee ownership. The fusion of these two philosophies can transform not just businesses, but also the communities that they are a part of, the young people that are a part of those communities. And think about the legacies that the business owners will be passing down. That legacy will not just be found in that business. The legacy of that business owner is going to permeate through that whole community. So I have a mentor. His name is Peter Block. I would encourage you all to look him up. He's a famous author. His more famous book is Flawless Consulting. Peter Block's in Cincinnati, where I reside. And so in Cincinnati, I don't know if you all have heard, but Cincinnati is really like Vermont, are on the forefront of this employee ownership movement. So I'm going to recommend a book by Peter Block. It's called Community, The Structure of Belonging. That's the name of the book, Community, The Structure of Belonging. I'm going to talk about that for a few minutes. In Peter Block's book, he presents a new way of transforming communities by focusing on the power of conversations. So this is another. I've talked about ABCD. Now I'm going to talk about another methodology called the 6 conversations. He proposes 6 conversations that each serve a unique purpose, whether it's to build relationships, foster acknowledgement, or encourage commitment. So today I would like to explore how these conversations can be utilized in the context of promoting employee ownership as an essential tool for asset-based community development. So I'm gonna have you write some more down. I have another list. The 6 conversations. The first one is the invitation conversation. Think about when we make invitations to show up to events, or when we make an invitation for anything. Oftentimes, we make these invitations to bring people together to talk about problem solving. How exhausting is that? I mean, it's just exhausting. And then oftentimes, the people that you're trying to serve, when they read that invitation, all they think is that, oh, I'm being invited to this place so people can tell me what I need to do. How often do we put the language of possibilities in our invitation. I invite you to come explore the possibility of creating an ownership legacy for our community. I don't know, anything. So the invitation conversation, change begins with the invitation. It's an open call to every member of a business and a community to step forward, participate, and contribute to the process of transformation. The first step towards adopting employee ownership in any business is an invitation, inviting employees to step up, to take on the mantle of ownership, and to actively participate in shaping the future of the business. Simultaneously, the invitation extends to the broader community, calling on them to recognize, support, and champion local employee-owned enterprises. That's the invitation conversation. And in a minute, I'm gonna give you questions for each of those conversations that you can start having today. Number two, the possibility conversation. This conversation focuses on articulating a shared vision of what is possible. What our businesses and our communities can become. It's not about quick fixes or responding to urgent problems, but about envisioning a future that is different, positive, and hopeful. In the context of employee ownership, the possibility conversation could revolve around the potential for more equitable wealth distribution, increased job stability, enhanced employee engagement, and the resilience of local economies. Number three, the ownership conversation. I probably should have created a slide for this, I'm sorry. But the ownership conversation. The focus in this conversation is about accountability, and taking responsibility for the situation at hand. So this conversation requires situational leadership. For a business transitioning to employee ownership, this is a fundamental step. Employees must take ownership, not just in the literal and the financial sense, but also metaphorically. Taking responsibility for the successes and the failures of a business. In a wider context, the community as a whole must acknowledge their role in supporting these businesses, recognizing that the health of the local economy is intrinsically linked to the well-being of a community. The dissent conversation. Look, if you don't create the space to allow people to say no, then when they say yes, it doesn't mean anything. So dissent is crucial for genuine commitment. It's an opportunity to voice concerns, express doubts, and question the status quo. In the journey towards employee ownership, it's important to create space for dissent, not be afraid of it. To answer questions, to address potential fears, or just simply misunderstandings. As a community, it's vital to openly discuss and debate the role of businesses, the distribution of wealth, and the dynamics of economic power. Number 5, we have the commitment conversation. Making a promise to the future with your words and your actions. That's at the heart of the commitment conversation. This step is crucial for employees as they transition from the role of workers to owner workers. It also holds relevance for the wider community, who must also commit to supporting local businesses and fostering a sustainable, inclusive economy. Number 6, which is my favorite one, the gifts conversation. The gifts conversation. All of us have gifts that we bring to the table. This conversation aims to shift the focus from people's deficiencies to their skills, their capacities, and their contributions. It echoes the core principle of ABCD, which emphasizes building on the existing strengths of a community. Employee-owned businesses inherently recognize and value the diverse gifts of their employees, creating an environment where everyone's contributions are acknowledged and appreciated. I'm coming up close to time, so I'm going to be a little quick. So as we engage in these transformative conversations, we begin to understand the power of employee ownership, not just as a business model, but as a philosophy, a vehicle for community transformation. When employees become owners, they are more invested in their work and are likely to drive innovation and productivity. They earn better, they save more, and they're less likely to lose their jobs during economic downturns. The ripple effects of these benefits are felt throughout the community, leading to a more vibrant, resilient, equitable, and inclusive local economy. It's hard to think about local economy in the era of globalization, so I like to call it glocalization. So let's just imagine a company that started as a small enterprise, but through the dedication and collective effort of its employee owners, has grown into one of the most successful businesses in the region. The employees, in turn, have seen their wages, their job security, and their wealth improve, also their health. But the benefits didn't stop at the company's boundaries. The local economy has been invigorated by the business's growth. Jobs have been created. Local suppliers have prospered, and the community has been enriched by the company's success without that community gentrifying. I've heard, it may not be true, but I've heard that this is the story of King Arthur Bacon Company. That this is the story of Gardner Supply Company, PC Construction, and Chroma Technology. That's what I've heard, anyway. These companies serve as compelling examples of the benefits of employee ownership, which include improved workplace, culture, greater employee engagement and satisfaction, and sustainable local economic development. So as we look ahead, I challenge each one of us here today to engage in these transformative conversations and to work towards realizing the promise of employee ownership. Let's envision a future where businesses are not just about profits, but also about people and communities. Let's take ownership of this vision and address the challenges that stand in our way. Let's commit to transforming our businesses, our communities, and ultimately our world and our society. Remember, we are not just building businesses, we are building communities. And in this endeavor, every conversation matters, every voice counts, and every individual has something to contribute. Every individual can make a difference. Economic stability, income and wealth distribution, the spillover effects from your employees earning higher wages that they are in turn spending in their community. Further stimulating economic activity, job creation, community engagement, skills development, innovation. So I'm gonna close with some key questions that can help guide each of our 6 conversations. With the invitation conversation, we need to understand, we need to ask ourselves, Who needs to be involved in this conversation about employee ownership and asset-based community development? And I'm more than happy to come out here anytime to consult with you about how to link those two together. What steps can we take to invite their active participation? They meaning the employees. How can we communicate the value and significance of their involvement? Questions for the possibility conversation. What is our shared vision for the future of our business and community? What opportunities might employee ownership open up for us? What will success look like for our business and our community under this model? Questions for the ownership conversation. What responsibilities do we need to accept to make this vision a reality? It also involves looking ourselves in the mirror and asking ourselves, what are we contributing to the situation that we're trying to solve? And that's basically like getting out of your own way. What might prevent us from taking full ownership? And how can we address those obstacles? By focusing on possibilities, not focusing on the deficient. How can we support each other in this transition to a new way of operating? Questions for the dissent conversation. What concerns or reservations do you have about moving towards employee ownership? How can we ensure these concerns are heard and addressed? How might dissent and conflict actually be helpful in this process? Again, if you don't create the space for people to say no, their yes has no meaning. The commitment conversation. What specific commitments are we ready to make a move towards our shared vision? How would we hold each other accountable for these commitments? How can we demonstrate our commitment to the community throughout this transition? Questions for the gifts conversation. What unique skills, talents, and assets do we each bring to this process? So it's not about asking what we don't have. You think about the field of marketing, all marketing is to tell you that what you have is not enough. How can we best utilize these gifts to facilitate the transition to employee ownership? How can we recognize and appreciate each other's contributions? These questions can serve as a starting point for each conversation, prompting participants to think deeply about their roles, their responsibilities, and relationships in the context of transitioning to employee ownership and fostering this model of ABCD and the 6 conversations. So, as we part ways today, remember that each one of us is an agent of change and a catalyst as we journey towards employee ownership and a stronger community. Let's carry with us the spirit of collaboration, innovation, and resilience. Again, we're not merely just building businesses. We're fostering a society where everyone is an active participant, a stakeholder, an owner. So let's dare ourselves to envision a future where success is not just measured by profit, but the richness of our relationships, the strength of our communities, and the shared prosperity that we can create together by focusing on possibilities. Thank you, and let's build that future one conversation at a time. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So we are about to kind of head out to a day of learning. There'll be 4 rounds of sessions. I did want to make one note in the program. There are 2 rooms that have moved. They are accurate on the signs and in the app. But if you're relying on the paper program, in the first round, Hot Topics for ESOPs is in Williams. And in the third round, Meeting Tools for Meaningful Cooperation is in Mount Mansfield, which is downstairs. So it's 2 floors down. You can take the stairs or the elevator. So with that, again, find each other, have good conversations today, learn a lot, and then at the end, let us know how the conference went. Each year we put out a survey, and what you say matters in terms of how we plan the next one. So thank you all for attending, and enjoy the day.